Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. First up for T&D today, we have my other Help It's Again Caduceus mug. This one is obviously white with a cute little picture of Caduceus drowning in some mud. And inside of it, we have some of my kind of standby Hardy & Sons Gunpowder Green. I actually need to get more of this. I am almost out. So I need to calm down on that one just a little bit until I can get some more in. Because I would prefer to have it around in case I need it, as opposed to not, and just be able to continue consuming it in my normal fashion. Anyway, let's get into what we're talking about today. We are talking about why you should have... It's tough to, kind of really conceptualize what this is. Obviously, the title of this video is why you should have the seasons in your D&D game, but I'm more going to be talking about why you should have changing time in your game, essentially. I don't know. Hopefully it'll make more sense as we get into it here. But I am excited to talk about this one. This one actually was something that just kind of popped into my head a couple days ago, because it's March now, which is great, and really, where I live, March has really just kind of said, "Nah, winter, we're good," and so I'm in shorts, it's great. So anyway, I was just thinking about how I have incorporated changing seasons into D&D and stuff like that. So that is what we're talking about today. Let's get into it real quick here. So, first off, why you should have the seasons in your games, obviously. I really like building in calendars, progressions, passage of time, stuff like that into my D&D games for a few different reasons. And I will say that this is something that is more beneficial to those games that are more roleplay focused as opposed to combat focused. However, having different scenarios, I guess, different weather patterns and stuff like that can be really cool for your game to be able to operate within if you do play a more combat intensive game, because you can have things like rain and ice and blinding sunlight and stuff like that. So definitely sort of hang with it if you're one of the people that doesn't play a more role-play intensive game. Anyway, so we as people obviously go through a year at a time here, and depending on where you live, you have a variety of experiences with a variety of different weather patterns. And so why wouldn't your D&D characters have the exact same thing? It obviously is a little bit more floaty and not necessarily concrete with what your D&D games scientific relation to the rest of the universe actually is, because there is a multi-planescape. There's gods that can essentially come down and manifest themselves on the material plane. We have literal stat blocks for two different gods, avatars essentially. So it's obviously a little bit different, but you could reasonably think that, there is a sun in the sky most of the time, so you are probably on a planet that goes around that sun. And in doing so, you probably have, the basic ability to progress weather systems and seasons and stuff like that. So, I think that it can be really fun to have a calendar sort of set up for you. You don't have to create a new calendar if you don't want to. I did create a new calendar for my game, and I use it. It's very, very close to ours. It's based on the 12 major deities in my homebrew setting. Each of them gets a month, so there's still 12 months. I think I have it at 360 days instead of 365. It's very, very close. I just adjusted how long the months last. And overall, your characters and your players don't really care what the month is or anything like that, but it helps you remember sort of what the progression of time is in that game. I have a running tally of how many days in game it's been since we started the game, so that I can keep up with how things have progressed and how quickly things are happening. That just helps me think about it. It also helps me remember, like, oh, hey, we're in winter now. Things are going to be colder. And realistically, you don't necessarily need to have like full season changes if you don't want to. I just really like to do that. So as it progressed through into my party started out in summer. As it progressed into fall and then winter, we talked about how it like began to get colder. That said, when they hit winter, it was like they were traveling way north. So it was just kind of one of those things where it's like, well, you got to get cold gear anyway. Which is one of the first like major things that I think is important to have with this. If you have these changing of seasons, you can have essentially a reskinning of your character, if you will. You get to do outfit changes, which is always fun in like a RP based setting. Everybody gets super excited when you're watching like a show and they release new art for characters or something like that. This is that, but for your home game. People get really excited, even if you don't think they would, to like go get new clothes in D&D, which is odd, I think, a little bit, but also, why not? Really, we just had a coronation in my home game, and they got super excited to go get clothes to dress up for it. The same thing can be said for buying winter gear or buying summer gear or something like that. Buying clothes for the place you're going or the time of the year it is becoming is a huge draw of being able to progress time within your game, because it adds to the roleplay element, it makes the world feel more alive, and it does kind of remind the players that the world progresses around them without them interacting with it, because it is supposed to be a living, breathing world. Which brings me to the next point of, this is supposed to be a living, breathing world, it should progress without the players interacting with it. So having different weather patterns, having different like natural disasters, events like that, those are things that are just sort of going to happen, sort of no matter what. Obviously, in Dungeons and Dragons, there can be like literal acts of gods that happen and can be explained away very specifically by a deity being like, yeah, that was me. And so you can have something like that happen in addition to having, you know, the weather change, because stuff happens. One of the ways that I have written some of my plot stuff out before is I will like start day timers, essentially like countdowns to when things are going to happen, and unless the party does something to interfere with it, that is when that thing happens. This is just a you know, the way that my brain works. But you don't have to have those for like, well, you don't have to use those exclusively is what I mean, for like plot points. You can use those for like, oh hey, in 50 days time in game, there is going to be a tornado that comes through this area, rips up a portion of this small town or farmer's fields or something like that, and the party's going to need help with that. Obviously, please, I am positive I will make a video about this at some point here, or an episode about this. Please make sure that nothing that you are going to be throwing at them in this capacity, if you're going to use like a natural disaster kind of thing, don't use something that is going to be like majorly triggering for someone. Please don't. That's not a good thing to do. It's a game, and at the beginning of the game, you should sit everybody down and be like, hey, are there any major things that we need to avoid here? Because I don't want to send anybody into a panic attack by accident, because I did something dumb and offhanded. So make sure you know what your players' boundaries are and what your players' limits are for that reason. That said, natural disasters are a great way to begin plot points. If something gets destroyed, they can have to like go find something and progress it forward like that. That sentence didn't make any sense. They can have to go find something to help rebuild whatever was destroyed, or help restore whatever was destroyed. That is what I meant with that sentence. And also, being able to, or being somebody that is controlling sort of like the seasons as they go, can also mean that you can pull from like real life what sort of disasters might be happening at different times in the year. Like maybe you're in between, seasons, and it's turning into like tornado season or something like that. And so you can begin to pick up on those a little bit more. Or maybe everything snap freezes in the winter. You can go ahead and throw that in there. Obviously, that wouldn't happen in the summer. And there are certain things that, like, not can't happen during certain times of the year, but are significantly less likely to. And unless your players are, like, really into weather, they probably won't notice that. But it is something that can help you provide them with a little bit more, like, meat to the world, essentially, just because it helps to flesh out that part of the world. So anyway, I got distracted by my own snapping there. So anyway, add in some, like, timed events, essentially, like things that are going to happen for a reason. The next reason that you should definitely have seasons in your world, and this sort of ties into the weather thing that I was just talking about, is that you can have them happen at any time you want, and unless your players are really paying attention, they won't notice, unless it's something huge. Like, you can go from winter into spring, back into winter in your game if there's something going on. And when you sit the players down and you go, you've begun to notice over the last, like, several weeks here, as it's gotten warmer and everything has started to defrost, in the last couple days, everything has begun to freeze back over and begins to lose life as the plants sort of wither and crystallize almost, which is odd for somebody, or for a time when you should be transitioning into summer. That right there tells them, hey, there's something wrong. Why is it winter time again? And it could be that, if you're using official lore, Oriel, the goddess of winter and the hunt, I believe, or just winter maybe. I think it's just winter. The hunt is somebody else. Has come back and is trying to do something, or there are people who are trying to summon her to the material plane, and your party needs to go and stop it. It's a great way to drop little adventure hooks in there, and I think that you can really use those to your advantage, because you can also use them as like a minor distraction from the main storyline and have it feel less like your party is doing the one story that's happening, and have a bunch of different things sort of happening at the same time and giving life to its own sort of varied multi-path kind of storyline that you could be laying out for them. You can also take that and then tie it back in later. Like, if it is people trying to summon Oriel to the material plane, and you are running a game that is going to center around, like, Tiamat coming back, not necessarily Horde of the Dragon's Queen, but, like, if for whatever reason your game is Tiamat trying to come back, they could have been trying to summon Oriel to help fulfill the aspect of cold that Tiamat has, like, in her form. I don't know. I'm making stuff up on the spot here now. But the point is, you can use it to your advantage to help drive the plot that you want to make sure you have in there, and your players will be like, wow, that's really cool, even if you have these random, like, little one-off things that are happening on the sides, because they are noticing the seasons changing in a weird way. So I highly recommend messing with the seasons as well, messing with natural events, natural disasters, that kind of thing, to help give your players some more concrete, I don't want to say relatable, because relatable feels like a weird way to frame this, but, like, more relatable, quote unquote, the context for the game world that they're in, by using real world things that people experience and interact with. I think that is about everything I have to talk to you guys about today. Just add seasons, add events, add timed things that are going off in your game. You already use, like, day-night cycles. Why wouldn't you use seasons too? Well, why not? It's a lot of fun. Anyway, moving on to the shows that we have today and this weekend, as it is, in fact, Friday. We got a lot, so stick with me here. Friday, today, we have Mayhem D&D, Off the Rails, Oxventure, Just Roll With It, The Strings of Fate, Rolling with Difficulty, World of Low, and The Crowned DM. Saturday, we have Dice Funk and Strange Hungers. And then Sunday, we have Super Idols, Roll for Your Life, Grinning Griffin, Dungeon Drunks, Library of Nightmares, The Chaos Brigade, Rise of the Forsaken, Chromatic Dice, The Strodcast, and High Rollers. Go check out any of those shows, please. They are all doing great work. I highly recommend checking out anybody that is on this list. Also, let them know that I sent you, because we're going to see if that actually does anything. And if you guys actually ever do, let them know that I sent you. That could be a lot of fun. But that is everything I have to talk to you guys about today. Thank you so very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in becoming a patron, there's a link to my Patreon in the description of this episode. If you are one of my patrons, make sure you get your suggestions in. The suggestion box for episodes closes on Sunday, and I will post a poll on Monday about what you want to see turned into it, with the next suggestion box going up as well. Also, if you are one of my $5 or above patrons, make sure you guys check out the feed on Sunday, as that is when we are posting the first episode of Sunday Brunch, the little offshoot show of this, where I just sort of hang out and do some D&D related stuff and talk to you guys about something. I'm excited for this first one. I'm painting a miniature that I'm really excited about, and it should be a fun time. And I hope that you guys enjoy it, because that is something that I've kind of wanted to try on this show, but there isn't really a good way to do it in a 15 to 20 minute format. Anyway, I believe that is everything I have to talk to you guys about. And before I do the last little sign off here, if you're watching this, check this out. If you're listening, you're just going to have to take my word for it. I got this D20 from a Kickstarter thing the other day. It was just a random little add-on that they had thrown in there. And the 1 is printed backwards, and it's also right next to the 2, which makes this die a misprint, which is a lot of fun. I'm just happy about that. I think it's funny. The other side, the 20 is the little symbol, and it's next to the 19, which is not supposed to happen. Anyway, not supposed to happen is a pretty strong way to say that. But anyway, thank you guys so much. Don't forget, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.